me, trains are about getting from A to B. But there are people of all ages who love the romance of the golden age of the railway. When the first train left Belfast for Lisburn in 1839, it changed our lives forever. Fast, dangerous and exciting, the railway sped up the pace of industry, commerce and communication. At one time, almost everyone in the country lived within 5 miles of a station. People who had never been out of their hometown or village could take a trip to the city or spend a day at the seaside. I'm much too young to remember all that, but I've spoken to people up and down the country who can't understand why most of our railway network was abandoned almost 50 years ago. I want to find out what the attraction is, to see if there's any trace left of these old lines, any hidden history to be found in some of the places they pass through. And that brings us to tomorrow. Temperatures will rise to about 18 or 19 degrees for many of us. Then as we look ahead towards the rest of the week and into the weekend, plenty more dry weather to come. Well, there you are. That was the weather. Not looking too bad at all. Perfect for getting away from the weather desk for a few days to walk the line. The first railway in Ireland was opened to the public on December 17, 1834, and comprised a 6-mile-long section of track linking Dublin with Dunleary, or Kingstown as it was known then. The next line to be built was a 7-mile track between Belfast and Lisburn in 1839, and this was extended to Portadown in 1841. This train, run by the Railway Preservation Society, is going all the way to Dublin today. I'm only going a few stops down the line. Nevertheless, I'm looking forward to it. There's something exciting about the sight of a steam engine blowing as it lets off steam. This is the way to travel, civilised. At one point, you could have journeyed full circle around Lough Neagh. Today, my challenge is to retrace that route. Bordering 5 of Northern Ireland's 6 counties, my walk around Lough Neagh will take me through unspoilt scenery and secluded countryside. I'll follow the once bustling railway routes through Verner's Bridge up to Cookstown and over to Crumlin. My first stop today is Portadown, where I'm going to meet former railway employee, photographer, raconteur and railway enthusiast Fred Hooper. Now in his 80s, Fred is still a familiar sight on the roads. He's spent a lifetime chasing trains and capturing the glorious age of steam on cinefilm. Fred travelled by motorbike the length and breadth of the land, sometimes 500 miles in a weekend, just to get the right shot. Thankfully for us, Fred did have the foresight to film trains like this before they disappeared forever. I'm honoured today to be invited into Fred's shed, which is a workshop, museum, private cinema and treasure trove of movie magic. You have thousands of hours worth of material. What made you want to go out and make films about the old railways?
As a young lad there, I used to sit and watch the trains go past up at a place in Portadown here called Junction Row. I had to sit there for hours. And my mum always knew where I was. She used to come up and I'd been sitting on top of the railway palings watching the trains up and down the Dublin line. It was great. I never lost the love of the old steam trains.
And when Fred grew up, he bought a camera, all the better to watch and film those steam trains go by.
Apart from filming the children growing up, I was working on the railway and I used to bring the movie camera down into the works. And the boys that I was working with would say, "Sure, Cooper, we know you're no filming that camera." They just acted naturally. And I was filming away at them. And this is how I got the movies of them.
And as well as the railways, you were also into your motorbikes.
Yes, I had that BSA 250 motorcycle. That was a great wee bike. And I would have chased the steam trains here, there and everywhere.
You had your bike and your camera, and some days you would have travelled hundreds of miles just to get some footage.
Actually, if there's going to be a certain run of trains out, the week before I used to do a dummy run. I would have went all around where I knew the train was going to be going to different locations. So as I would have knew the following week what roads to turn off. It's no use on the day of the tour say, oh, is it this road or that road? Because the steam train's still moving on. And if you can't catch it again, that's just too bad.
Was it difficult keeping up with the train?
You would have slid yourself back slightly on the dual seat of the bike, and you'd streamlined to that, and you got 3 or 4 miles an hour quicker if you were lying down on it than if you were sitting up where you were catching all the wind.
Some people may have thought you were a bit of a mug going out and filming in all sorts of weather, but you have the last laugh. You've got all of this material.
Some of the boys in the movie club and stuff would have said to you, what are you filming them out steam trains for? Sure, nobody wants to see them. I said, maybe they don't want to see them, but I said, I want to see them. And my young lads will want to see them again. And I says, that's why I'm taking these steam trains. I've had a great time over the last 50 years going out here and there on the motorcycle and filming the steam trains. And I would do it all again if I was a bit younger. But I've enjoyed it very, very much.
I could spend hours chatting with Fred, but there's walking to be done and a challenge to be met. And as I leave Portadown, I'm heading to another railway line, but this time it wasn't for passengers. This is Peatlands Park, part of the once beautiful estate of the Werner family. There is no sign of the family mansion known as Churchill, but what people might remember is the little 3-foot gauge railway that once crossed the Portadown-Dungannon Road. It also went below the M1 motorway in a special little tunnel, transporting freshly cut turf. There's now a similar sized railway and engine that runs through the park. It doesn't follow exactly the same route, but it does take you along some of the original railway, and there are places where the old track is still visible. I travelled by steam train earlier, but the track I'm on now was designed for a diesel engine, and the reason, well, look around. A steam train gives off sparks and could have easily have started a wildfire on the boglands. A narrow gauge line has been associated with this area since 1901, when the Irish Peat Development Company purchased the land. Over 8 miles of track was laid to transport cut turf from bog to the processing plant near Maherry. From there it was shipped by barge along the Blackwater River to Lough Neagh, and then down the Lagan Canal and River to Belfast and on to England. Up to 300 people worked in these boglands, cutting, footing and stacking the turf. I'm back on track now and heading to a station which also has connections with Peatlands Park. The station house here at Werner's Bridge opened in 1862 and was named in honour of local landowner William Werner. Now, he didn't want a standard station, so at his request, Werner's station was built to match his own house, Churchill, hence some of the unusual architecture. And along with the station house, the goods shed survives too, gentle reminders of a bygone era. There was once a massive bridge over the River Blackwater with trains carrying passengers from Belfast through Portadown to places like Dungannon Omagh, Strabane and Derry. Today, only the stanchions remain. There's something almost regal about these columns. They remain steadfast on the riverbed. I can still just about make out the railway track as I follow its route through the barley field. I'm walking alongside the old railway track, which takes me to my next stop, Truan Moy. It was important in the export of horses from the famous Moy horse fair. Moy, or as it's known locally, the Moy, is on the west bank of the River Blackwater. The former station is now a mushroom distribution business and the main building an office. The station house is still a family home. Kieran's father, Kevin Hughes, was station master here in the 50s, and he feels it's important to keep not only family, but railway memories alive.
We have great childhood memories of the railway. We played here on the lines and the tracks, watching out for the trains. In the early days, it was all steam engine.
So this is your railway collection. What exactly do we have here?
This was the money bowl, and this for all the loose change. There's 3 of them in a drawer, which was in the office just here behind us. This is the original ticket hatch from 1857. We've kept it the same.
All the passengers would have come here and got their tickets, and then...
Yeah. All the passengers had to get a ticket before they could go onto the platform. A ticket was something like this.
And how much would that have cost?
Maybe from 9p, 6d till half a crown.
And you've got a few old coins with you.
We have a few here, yes. We have a halfpenny and we have a penny.
Uh-huh.
And we used to put the halfpennies on the line to try and make pennies. But most of the time we ended up like this.
It's just really flat. I'm assuming that you weren't able to spend this anywhere.
No, it was a business idea that just didn't work. But we're still trying.
At least you tried. Have you a few other things here? This is the staff, I'm presuming for health and safety.
The staff and the tablet always meant that whenever a train come through, this here is from Annetmore to Truan Moy. So when a train was leaving Annetmore, it had to have a tablet, and that ensured that from Annetmore to here, the line was clear. When it come to Truan Moy, it had to leave the tablet to pick up a staff, and that left it that the line was clear from here to Dungannon. But that always had to be one or the other.
Do you remember when it closed and what it was like then?
Yeah, it closed on a Sunday night. A lot of people was here, and the bangers on the track for the last day leaving here to go towards Dungannon. It was a very sad day. It's important to keep it the way it was, so the children realise this was a railway station and the significance it had at the time.
This station is 2 miles outside Moy village, at True, hence the name. Former head teacher Jim Donaghy is on hand to give me a history lesson. So this was the original?
This was the original shelter, Barra. It was on the up platform. That's for trains going towards Portadown and Belfast. And people would have sheltered there on a cold winter's night. They bought their tickets in the main building, crossed by the footbridge, which was up here, and then they sheltered there until the train arrived.
This was the original station here at Moy?
This was the original station at Moy as built by the Portadown, Dungannon and Omagh Junction Railway. But, as you may notice, it was changed to Truan Moy.
I was just about to ask, why True and Moy?
Well, the reason was because, you know, the station was built to serve the Moy Fair. And there would have been lots of people come from all over England, from Europe, to buy horses for the various armies. But this particular day, when a dealer arrived at the station, and he came out through the door and he said, "It's a very small village in Moy. I don't see any houses." It was explained to him that Moy was about 5 miles away. He said, "Well, hold on, I bought a ticket to Moy, not to," he says, "this wee place in the country." So he threatened to bring the railway company to court, but the company changed the station to Truan Moy. The railway men themselves, drivers, firemen, referred to the Moy station. It was never Truan Moy.
And we had some interesting shipments that travelled here from Moy all the way to England.
During the war they had rationing in England, so there was very little food. And I found in this book here a record of dead rabbits being sent from through in Moy from a firm called Dobson Brothers in Moy.
And here it says 2 crates of dead rabbits.
2 crates of dead rabbits, yes, and they're going all the way, as you see there, to Harper and Company in Farringdon Street in London. Those days there were no fridges. I wouldn't like to have been eating the rabbits.
I'm branching off here at Dungannon and travelling northwards through Coal Island and Stewartstown towards Cookstown. It's not difficult to appreciate the transforming effect of the railway on these small rural communities. Through a chain of small villages and towns, Verner's Bridge, Moy, Coal Island, Cookstown, working life and leisure were bound by the precise regularity of the train timetable. Cookstown Railway Station opened in 1879 and closed in 1956. In 2003 it was bought by Cookstown Hockey Club, who have done a great job renovating and retaining some of the original features. And it's here I'm meeting a man who's doing his bit to keep railway history alive. James Swan has always loved history. His grandfather was a driver for Belfast city centre trams. He used to show James his badges and tickets, and that stayed with James. So when he came across old train tickets at a car boot sale, he couldn't let these little pieces of history go to waste.
Ever since I can remember, my grandfather has always driven for some kind of transport. Back in the early, must have been 50s, I remember him driving for the Belfast City tramways. I suppose that's always stuck with me. I was actually at a car boot sale one day. I'd come across a few of these tickets. I got chatting to the guy and I said, you know what, he's really lovely framed up. And he put me in touch with a few other friends of his. It turned out I was in possession of up to 10,000 of these tickets. And I just thought, you know what, these would make great gifts.
And you have some unusual tickets here. Having a look at this one, it actually says it's for a dog. So you used to have a ticket to bring your dog on the train.
Yes, basically back in the day you had to have a ticket with your dog. You couldn't just bring your dog onto the train. It had to be paid for as well.
And it wasn't only your dog, you actually had to have one for a bicycle.
A bicycle as well, yeah. It was a very expensive morning if you were heading out for the day and you had a dog and a bicycle. You know, you had to pay a fortune back then, but unfortunately nowadays, you know, you can't bring your dog on, which is a shame.
Have you had any unusual or quirky requests?
It was for a father who retired from his job after 40, 50 years, and his wife commissioned me to put together an 8-ticket frame. He lived in Portadown, and he worked in Carrickfergus, and I was able to put together the frame for him from Portadown to Carrickfergus. So something a bit personal like that, you know, it's a nice touch to it, you know, and it's something he'll remember.
It's all about the romance of these tickets, because nowadays you get one of these, a bit of paper, and even on your mobile phone, you've lost all of that.
It's the beauty of back then, you know, and the whole interaction, I think, between the passenger and the ticket master. Each ticket is individual, it's stamped with a different area, a different colour, and it's a bit more sort of appealing, you know, I think.
It's a business, but it is preserving some of our railway heritage.
Absolutely. I think it's upcycling as well. You know, all these tickets should have been binned 50 years ago, and luckily they were kept.
My journey so far has been on the Great Northern Line, but now I have to continue my lap of the Lough trip, and it will be the Northern Counties Line that will take me onwards. The railway line at Castle Dawson ran over the Moyola River, a 27-mile waterway which cuts its course through the heart of Mid-Ulster. Tombridge is a small village on the northwest corner of Lough Neagh. It's nice to enjoy the peace and tranquility and rest a while on the banks of the Lower Bann River. My journey takes me along the top of Lough Neagh now, towards Randalstown. The railway line, built here between 1853 and 1860, incorporated a great feat of engineering, the viaduct over the River Main. In 1995, a community group was set up in Randalstown called Arches. Their first project was renovating the viaduct. The imposing Charles Lanyon structure was built in 1856 to extend the railway from Randalstown to Cookstown. The original bridge has been replaced. This new one opens up the viaduct and old railway line to walkers and cyclists. George Graham is chairman of the Randalstown Arches Association.
Well, it had lain idle for nearly 50 years and was an eyesore. There was antisocial behaviour taking place, and Lanyon made such a wonderful job of that building there, we just wanted to preserve it. It took us about 6 months.
And what state was it in before you started the work?
It was overgrown, brambles, thistles, just a mess. We got it cleared and there's now a lovely footpath up there, and we put the bridge in and that became part of the Sustrans route.
How important was the railway for Randalstown?
Well, it was the main mode of transport, and it was opened in 1856. The junction went through to Cookstown. In 1864, Charles James Webb came to Randalstown, and the River Main and the railway line were instrumental in him setting up his worldwide famous business in making linen. He exported it all over the world.
So it really helped the town flourish?
Absolutely. At one stage there had been 1,500 people employed in the mill, and all of their goods went out in an electric truck to the train station.
And how happy are you with the finished product of your work?
We're absolutely delighted. It's been very rewarding to see the number of people that use it.
What difference has it made to the town?
The community now uses the viaduct on a very regular basis. People come and go to school, and it's an integral part of our community, and tourists and visitors come from all over to see Randalstown Viaduct. Not only can they see it, they can now go up on the top and have a view of Shane's Castle and the town, and it's a wonderful thing to have.
I'm not alone in my quest to get people out and about. This is Andrew Grieve from the Regional Development Cycling Unit. This is literally recycling the old railway. Why is this so important?
Well, it's important because if you put greenways, walking, cycleways on old railway beds, you can actually get people out and about, walking and cycling and adopting a more active lifestyle, a really important thing. If you think about sort of a grand plan, Northern Ireland Greenways have looked at all the dismantled railways. It would be great to convert those all to greenways.
And you've literally got hundreds of miles to play with.
There's about 600 to 700 miles really. Now, it's not all available. Roads have been built in some. What we would like to develop is what you would call like a greenway spine. And if you get the greenway spine built, you have a long distance route, right, covers Northern Ireland, joins to the south, and from that then you can spread out.
And it doesn't just benefit locals, because you're going to be able to market this around the world for tourists.
That's exactly right. The good thing about it is that it has an economic impact locally. It's got social impacts as well. It helps people to mingle and to meet each other. There's tourism as well, there's recreation. It really gets people up and about, and it gets people walking, and it gets people cycling.
And I suppose to top it all off, you're keeping the history of the railways alive at the same time.
If you can do greenways on the old railway, you can actually protect the line of the railway.
And Randalstown, I suppose, is a prime example of that.
I think this Randalstown scheme really shows you what you can do. Look at the width, look at the surface. This is the kind of thing that we would like to roll out. It's something that really is marketable, and it's something that could make your journey to work a more pleasant experience.
From the viaduct, it's a short walk to my next stop, Shane's Castle, set among 1,000 acres of woodland on the northeast shore of Lough Neagh. The O'Neill family has a long association with Randalstown. Miles of walling are a preparation for the medieval entrance to the castle. I'm here to meet Lord O'Neill, President of the Railway Preservation Society of Ireland. And inside these impressive gates, wow, it's a stunning location. Acres of land in which to run your own personal railway, which Lord O'Neill did until 1995. But when did his love affair with trains begin?
Well, I was brought up in England, and
During the war, I occasionally had to spend the odd night in an Anderson shelter on the edge of London. And the owner was a member of the Model Engineering Society. And when I went down for the night, he used to hand me a copy of the Model Engineering Society journal. And that really sort of set the scene, I think.
And you've really amassed quite a collection yourself.
Well, I've run out of space. 50 odd years ago, I became president of the Railway Preservation Society of Ireland and became heavily involved in that. And then a few years after that, we decided to try and create a tourist attraction here. So we set up the railway here in 1971, and it kept going for 24 years.
Not everyone who is a rail enthusiast gets to build their own railway. What was it like?
Well, it took a bit of time to collect all the bits and pieces. I mean, one of the locomotives came from Borden Manor in the south, and then we picked up bits and pieces here and there. But I think most people thought I was stark raving mad, really, to do anything of the kind. But I enjoyed it, and we kept it going for all the 24 years, and we had various other events attached to it.
What are your favourite memories of that time?
Well, I think probably the steam rallies, when we had a more intensive service running with both engines. And then, of course, we had a lot of visiting engines, fairground organs and all the rest of it. So that was probably the peak of the year. And more recently, I reactivated my own model railway, really for my grandchildren. However, their interest is very limited and they're more interested in looking at their tablets. But it's mostly my contemporaries who come and have a look.
This model railway is great fun, but it's back to the life-size tracks for me now. The next part of my journey takes me close to a more modern form of transport. The original line ran from Randalstown, through Antrim, then Aldergrove, and onwards to Crumlin. This line takes me into Crumlin, and the final part of my journey takes me along the last railway line to close in Northern Ireland. The Knockmore line between Antrim and Lisburn hasn't seen a regular service since 2003, but unlike other lines I've walked on, this hasn't been ripped up, and TransLink hasn't lost hope of a revival. And it's easy to see why, with the line being on the doorstep of Belfast International Airport. Well, there you have it. I managed a lap of the Lough. Next stop is Lisburn, but I'm not walking the line, I'm getting a lift. That's us, lads. Till next time, bye-bye.